Hello and welcome everyone. So lovely to see everyone's faces be entering here, popping up into this space for our first session for Mastering Self. So welcome everyone. We are pretty excited and we have been looking forward to this for some time. So glad that we're about to jump into this journey with each of you and get to know each other just a little better and hopefully a whole lot more. And so in week one, what we're diving into is setting the foundations. And whilst I use the word diving into, really we want this first week to be easing us into this 10-week journey. Yeah. Really laying down the foundations that are going to mean that we can easily build upon and move forward throughout the course in the most useful possible way for each of us as individuals and as a collective as well. So ask as many questions as you can in this session and every session moving forward, and we invite you to. There's no need to really be polite. Unmute yourself and say, hey, Dan, hey, Sarah, Lawrence, Marion, whoever might be facilitating, and just let us know you've got a question, because it's highly likely that there will be a handful of other people that also have a question or a similar question. So first of all, I'd love to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which David, myself, Sarah are calling from today, the Arakwal people of Bundjalung Nation. Recognizing their continued connection to land, water, and community, just like this beautiful community, this beautiful cluster that's coming together now is a cluster that hasn't been together before. And so that'll create brand new interactions, and we will see different parts of us as a result of being in interaction with different people. So we're really looking forward to that. And we pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. And so we're going to move into the why and how of this course throughout today. Before we go into that, Sarah's going to take us away just to allow us to drop into this space here together. We may have just woken up, or whether it's the afternoon or the morning, we may have just woken up. Yes, I saw that laugh on your face. So, you know, we've got people tuning in from the UK, people tuning in from the Netherlands, people tuning in from Oz. And so wherever you are in the world, let's come together into this space now collectively and then move forward from there. Take it away, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you. So we're just gonna take a moment to drop into this space together. So just close your eyes and take a moment to be with yourself. Might be some more energy in the body moving just by being in this space together. And just allow yourself to become aware of yourself, of where you are sitting. Notice what you are paying attention to. What are you aware of? And become aware of the subjective experience of you, a simple sense of who you take yourself to be. Here, right now, what can be noticed in the body? Notice any sensations in the body. Maybe any energy moving. Notice if the body is holding some tensions, potentially. And just relax. Relax the body. Relax the shoulders, the hands, the hips. The legs or the feet. Let it all go. Relax the body. Now notice the face. Maybe some details in the face that you can become aware of. Potentially some tensions in the face. In the forehead or in your eyebrows. The muscles in your jaw, your mouth, and relax all of it. Any tensions in the body or in the face are often because in responding to thoughts in mind, to what is happening in mind. And as you become more aware of these happenings in your internal reality, the more you become objective to them. The more awareness, the more power in a sense you have. Right here, right now, is the only thing you have. In the totality of this moment. If you're ready, you can open your eyes. And as you do so, allow the content today and over the course, but especially today, just to land wherever it needs to land for you today. It will exactly land where it needs to.
And so, the purpose of today's session, we're going to be introducing the course and the very nature of the course, the structure and the layout of the course. We will be going through what it will mean to lay the foundations for success for you in this course so that you can get the most out of this course and exactly what you specifically need to get out of this course. There is an incredible opportunity here to shift your perspective for the better permanently and in a profound way. And that really is up to how you show up and how you engage for yourself and therefore for everything else around you, the people, your relationships, your work, all of that. We'll be moving into an introduction to breath. So we'll finish up on that introduction to breath and already have you walk away with a simple practice where all of us, regardless of what form of meditation or sitting we may have done or practices in the past, we are going to recalibrate how we breathe and realign into a natural rhythm of breath. In each session, you might have one or two of the four Yes and coaches facilitating. And for today, it's going to be Sarah and myself facilitating and Lawrence and Marion in support, where they'll be supporting with questions and also with some of the Zoom tech. And then we'll get to some housekeeping at the end. And so, as I just mentioned, you have your team of Yes and coaches, myself, Marion, Lawrence, and Sarah. If you guys could give everyone a bit of a wave so that everyone can see you on the screen, if you can see them there. And so each of us are here to support you, not just in this session today with any questions, but we're here to support you throughout this entire 10-week period. There'll be one-on-one support, but also if you have any questions whatsoever, please make the most of each of us and ask us as many questions as you can. Send us emails, communicate with us through Telegram, which is a beautiful platform that we've moved to and moved away from in terms of Facebook and WhatsApp. So please use us. We are all certified coaches and yeah, are here to fully support you. And so moving on to the intention of the course, and these two quotes here really speak to that intention beautifully. This one here from Ken Wilber: the understanding of evolutionary consciousness is perhaps the most important thing lacking in spiritual practices today. More on that later. Evolution means growth and development and unfolding. This means that there are aspects of reality that have not yet arisen in our consciousness, but they will arise if we grow. And to put that simply, what Ken is speaking to there is a level of maturity and development and growth in the consciousness of human beings. And our intention with this course is to grow and mature with you and to better understand that which maybe we should have continued to be exposed to earlier on. For some reason, we weren't exposed to this information of basic human development, even as adults. For some reason, we're left with this sense that adult development finishes, or like human development finishes once you turn 18 and you can, you've got your driver's license and you can go to a pub and you're a mature adult human being now, right? So this is the stuff, this is basic content, but also basic practices that we feel that every human being should be exposed to. And we are on this journey, and we ourselves will mature in our interactions with each of you. So we are all maturing in this process over this next 10 weeks and beyond. And to do that in the most generative and beneficial way for each of you, what needs to happen is exactly what Zach is speaking to at the bottom here. We should surrender what we think that we know if we are going to realize our full potential before we die. Here in this course, beyond this course, and as a collective species on this planet. And so we need to wake up. Yeah, we need to wake up from the slumber that we've been in, from the monotony of day to day and the comforts and so on. And if we do, it could get really good around here. And so who is ready for it to get really good around here? Hands up.
I don't know how to put my hands up.
Just putting your hand up.
You can see.
Beautiful. And now we're going to get to know each other a little more. We're going to move into a social space. And so jumping into this room with, let's go in pairs, actually, or groups of three, sorry. Let's go in groups of three, Marion. And really sharing with the other person, what is it that brought you here? Each of you is sitting on this call, and it's not as though you've landed in front of the computer with Zoom on and gone, oh shit, what am I doing? And like, what's this thing that's on in front of me, right? There is something, some decision made somewhere that has brought you here onto this course. What is that decision? And what are you intending to bring forth for yourself? So jumping into the rooms, enjoy, and we'll see you at the other end.
All right, rooms are open.
I think we've got 7 stuck. Oh, they're coming. Enjoying it too much. Beautiful. And so, if anyone feels like sharing what it is that's brought them here, you're in a group of maybe 1 or 2 others. Know that unmuting yourself and speaking up and expressing, even if it doesn't happen in this session here, is a huge way and a beautiful way to accelerate your growth, throughout this 10-week journey. What is it that comes up in the face of unmuting and speaking in front of a bunch of humans that I had never seen before in that sense, right? What comes up? And despite it coming up, can we still express here? And so for those that feel moved to share, please feel free to, we'll have a few of you unmute and share.
Yeah, for me, it was a great experience to talk to different people and about the expectation they have from this course, and a little bit, I have found out a little bit about themselves and what they doing, how they try to live, and different aspects of the life. But mainly what they expect from this course, and how to be perhaps more in control of the thoughts or emotions, or how to live a better life because of it.
Beautiful. And what's brought you, Jacek? What's been your intention?
This is exactly what I have mentioned just now. It's oh, sorry, I have Dominic at the background, so
that's okay.
Just to be happier person. I'm trying to slow down my life and do more of the things I like to do, rather than be forced because of different circumstances, different situations in life, and doing things that I not necessarily like. So perhaps this course, it will help me to get even closer in this direction. So
thank you.
Dan, I would like to learn to sit with my feelings, and that's definitely been something that's been coming up for me in some of my other work that I'm doing. And I've realized that I rush to solutionize everything rather than actually noticing what's going on. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Lou.
Hello.
Hey, Michelle.
I am really excited about the prospect of just having some time to focus on me, for me, and not have it be work related or study related or anything like that. Just some time for stillness and for personal growth.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks for joining, Michelle. Might take a couple more. Thanks, Ness.
I was in a thread with Jacek and David, and something David said really resonated, which was it's about all the noise that's going on. But for myself, the noise comes from inside my head, and I've noticed it more and more and more. So I like to continue to work on that, and to hopefully one day get a bit of stillness and just enjoy me for me.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks for that, Ness. And you know, that quote from Zach Bush where he said, things can get really good in here. Things can get really good here. Here could be interpreted as out there in the world, and we could be left thinking, well, we have very little influence on the world at large, and especially big events, as to what in terms of what's happening at the moment. But here is actually a place, and this is something to learn for everyone. Here is actually a place that has never left you. Even if you jumped into a plane and flew across the continent to another continent, you would still be here. And to realize that for yourself, that home is the place where it could get really good. And if you're in a really good state there, and a really good state doesn't necessarily mean skipping around, you know, through the flowers and looking at the rainbows or whatever else. Simply a state of stillness, and coming from there in dealing with whatever is happening out there. Is there a state that you would rather come from than a place of stillness here, regardless of all of the movement that's happening out there? And so here, home that has never left, here is you, is where it could get really good in this course and beyond. I have one more person.
Also,
oh, yeah, go for it.
It's actually, just to add to that, it's already still. The very act of looking is to trying to flatten the water that's actually quite still, and touching it with the hand, as a synonym, makes the water go wrinkly, right? So the very act of looking and trying to seek is the very noise that we're clearing. Because what's actually true is already still and quiet.
And so we'll have one more share.
Everyone is still.
No longer seeking. Jared, what's brought you here, mate?
All right, let me see if this works. How you going?
Good, mate.
I'm
Glad
so
you could
sorry.
make it.
I think I've missed probably the first, well, probably 20 minutes of the first 30 minutes. So cool. I'm zero expectations. I'm really just looking forward to diving into whatever I can, I suppose. Try to 2 hours, if it's 2 hours a week of breaking away from a bit of chaos and looking a little bit internally, or something that I might find that's practically useful for for me to create some mental space or peace or something like that, then I'm all for it. But I'm full just open book, zero expectations, and looking forward to whatever this brings.
Beautiful. Thanks for being here, mate. Okay. If you could let me share screen, please, Marion.
Perfect.
Beautiful, thank you. Moving along. This is the structure of the next 10 weeks for each of you and for all of us. We are in week 1 here, setting the foundations, and it's been intentionally designed to build layer upon layer upon layer, so that each previous layer supports and feeds into the layers that come forth. So weeks 2 and 3, we'll be moving into and exploring what is the ego, what is the ego construct or the occupant or whatever you might have called it in the past. And then from there, we'll move into ego development and how that develops for us throughout childhood into adulthood, and what that looks like for us now. Where are we living at this point in time? Then week 4 and 5, we'll move into the Enneagram. We will go deep into the 9 personality types, and everyone will go through their personality profiling and see which type it is that they seem to be carrying the thinking and behavioral patterns of in life. Then we're going to take a breather in week 6. We will come in and there will be a whole heap of practice sessions, whole heap of breakout rooms and discussion, answering questions, and really grounding what we have gone through to that point. And then from there, we'll move into the 4 quadrants of perspective. And what is your native perspective that you see the world from? Is it from the perspective of I, or is it from the perspective of always considering the we, or the it space? Are you a doer? You're just doing. Or do you see things with an overview? So that very quick intro there to the quadrants. And then we move into week 9, which is integration once again, and a bit of group coaching where all of the coaches will be jumping into the breakout rooms and supporting and sort of letting you know what we can hear and see, so that you can take that and try it on for yourself in your day-to-day. And then in week 10, probably the most valuable session there is the self and beyond. What does this look like for you in your day-to-day? Now, all the way through these 10 weeks, we are going to be applying this to your day-to-day. So if you're not sure, well, how does this apply to me, the thing that we're speaking to here today? How does that apply to me in my day-to-day? Ask that question and we will navigate through that with you. There will be weekly pod practices. These pod practices are a very short 20-minute window with 2 other people, maybe 2 or 3 people. You'll link up. There will be a form where we're going to group together 3 to 4 people that have similar time slots available. And these people are kind of your accountability buddies as well throughout the 10 weeks. But you'll also get to jump in and discuss and go through a particular practice for that 20-minute session to really ground it for yourself, to support one another. And then there'll be one-on-one support where each of you will have a one-on-one call with one of the SN coaches at the 3-week mark, and then somewhere between the 7 and 9 week mark.
Just over the course of these 10 weeks as well, we will be introducing different models. And it's very important to keep in awareness that the models that we show you function as a map. It's not who you are. It functions as a map to make sense and to understand what are some of the processes and what is happening within the construct. It doesn't define you as a person. It's good to keep that in mind. Another thing to also keep in mind is that everyone develops differently. Development looks different for everyone, and no development looks better than another. No, where someone is at in terms of this process, it's not better than where someone else is at. So to really allow yourself to unfold and be gentle with yourself as you unfold through this course, and really get curious about what you can see. That's a really important note to make there as well.
And so 2 types of human development. And this is really the basis of this course here. It's been adapted from Ken Wilber's work, and Ken Wilber's the founder of Integral Theory. And you've got waking up and growing up. So on the left-hand side, growing up. So we'll be growing up through stages of development, of adult human maturity. And we'll be creating an awareness of our personality structures. Yeah, so thinking structures, behavioral patterns. And so we'll have more and more and more of an awareness of these, even some that we weren't aware of prior to this course. And so this is where you have the awareness of your day-to-day thinking and behavioral patterns. And then we go over to the right, and this is waking up. Waking up through states rather than stages. And a state is a momentary window where you experience reality as it is and not as you think it is. And you may have had Each of us would have had a state experience somewhere. It may have been in the middle of meditation or a prayer. It may have been in the middle of dance or yoga, or psychedelic journeys also give us a state experience, which is momentarily seeing reality as it is, not as we think it is. Now, these are only temporary, but we can work towards making them more permanent and more us stabilizing in these states. So often, let's just say you've gone to a retreat or a festival or even an evening somewhere, or a Tony Robbins event or whatever it might be, and it's a short period and you walk away and you're completely lit up and you're seeing things differently, and it might last about a week, maybe 2, and then it starts to wear off. Okay, so that was a state experience, and when it starts to wear off, you're like, oh, these default patterns, behavioral patterns, thinking patterns, they start to creep in to my day-to-day life. The way these habits that I had, they're starting to creep in. What happened? I thought that I was seeing the world differently. And so that's the growing up part here on the left, which is often missed out, or at least not attended to the degree that it needs to be attended to. The waking up shows us the work to be done. The growing up is the work. That's the diligence that we show up with and make better decisions in the moment, and couple those decisions with better actions in the moment.
The growing up also is becoming more objective to your subjective self. So becoming more and more objective to certain patterns or thinking patterns or behavioral patterns, and becoming more objective to what you were first subject to. And that might not always be so pleasant. As a matter of fact, the breaking down is the breaking through, because growth and development doesn't happen in the comfort zone, and it doesn't happen in what is familiar. It's unknown, it's unfamiliar. So if that happens, if there's a moment of a breaking down, know that you're breaking through. So good job, congratulations. You're working on yourself. The process is occurring for you. And also know that we're here to support. And it might be challenging at times, and that's exactly what's needed.
Absolutely. And so we are going to be on these railway tracks throughout the course of waking up and growing up, where each week there will be one waking up practice, which will be a sitting practice or a meditation. You know, we've got different names for it, and we'll get into that. So there'll be one waking up practice, and then one growing up practice, self-awareness practice, a SAP, basically. So the meditation or the sitting practice is just a practice of being able to observe more, observe thinking patterns, observe behavioral patterns, observe out there with more objectivity. And this will feed and support our capacity outside of the sitting practice in our day-to-day to see better. And once we can see, that's 50% of the power, because then we can decide, choose, and act in a more useful and generative way for ourselves. There will also be, in terms of the waking up practices, at the beginning, there will be more, so it'll be a waking up practice every week. And then we're gonna be coupling that with a well-being practice, various well-being practices where we bring in playfulness as well. And we bring in little challenges to do with a morning or an evening routine and healthy social media and so on and so on. So this course feeds into your awareness of what integral health and well-being actually is, yeah? And then allows you to make the shifts and changes that you want for yourself. So you will see this screen pop up every now and then. The reason for this screen, we are going to run these sessions and mimic them in the same way that life tends to happen for us, where there's work and content and talking and we're doing and we're doing. how frequently do we take a moment in this busy, busy life? And when I say take a moment, not shifting from work to TV, or from TV to the phone, or from phone to even a book. How often do we take a moment, and it doesn't even have to be long, to stop, close our eyes, just be, for no reason whatsoever, but rest and recoup, and just allowing to shift gears for a moment. And we're going to move into the science of stress, the science of breath, and how these two can fuel your integral health and well-being. So for now, if everyone can just take a moment, there's been a lot of talking, to just simply, and it might feel odd, you might not be used to sitting and doing nothing. Be with that for a little bit and notice how that shifts and changes for you from session to session and from moment to moment that we take. Just closing your eyes, nothing to do for a moment, simply observing and watching your breath. And gently opening your eyes. That was super hard, wasn't it? Can we punctuate our days with moments like that? Just for a moment, let the system drop down a couple gears. It can be hard to break the cycle of go, go, go.
So just now we're going to do a short introduction into the journey of adult development and the ego construct, and what that is and what do we mean by that. So what is adult development? Adult development is really the process of growing up through different stages, like Dennis already mentioned, from being a child to being a teenager to an adult. That's how we've always viewed that growing up, right? That's how we've seen growing up so far. But growing up happens further along. So whether you're 1 year old or 80 years old or somewhere in between, the opportunity to grow and develop is always there. And we'll later show a model what that specifically looks like. And the ego construct, what we mean by that is simply a sense of identity, a sense of I am a someone in the world, a storyteller, an organizer, an interpreter that has opinions and ideas about itself and the world. The ego's point for being here is to create lasting meaning, to make sense of things and to feel safe. So that's a very short introduction to the ego. We will dive deeper into that more in the course. Now these 5 circles, you've seen it maybe on the branding of the course, and it's not by accident. This is the process of ego development over the years, and it's really a process over years. It doesn't happen in a 10-week course. This is simply a window in time that can support you in some of that process. And whether you are aware of it or not, you're already on the process, all of us. Now you actually get the opportunity to be on that process intentionally and see where you might be hanging out and see what you are aware of at this point in time. Process is not necessarily linear. as it might be presented there, but it's not a linear process. And as you can see in these circles, you can see that the ego becomes less and less dense, is what you can call it. So it has less and less power over you. So there's more autonomy available, more freedom, more spaciousness, more stillness. And by the very act of observing the construct, the ego construct, in meditation, in day-to-day life, in moment-to-moment living, it has less and less power over you. So by the very act of observing, it already starts to change the process.
This beautiful representation has been adopted by a pretty powerful Christian mystic, actually, Bernadette Roberts, who has particular views on not just Christianity, but all religions and non-religions as well. So yeah, beautiful work from her.
And these are very briefly the stages of development that we're going to explore in the course. And this is a framework designed by Ken Wilber. And he created a meta model. And a meta model is a model that contains other models. So he has combined Western psychology and Eastern spiritual traditions and everything that's available now in the field of spiritual traditions, religious, psychology, and development in general in one framework. And that's what we're going to explore over the course today. Again, we're going to explore this model through growing up and waking up, what Dan also has explained already. There are different attitudes, different views, different beliefs, and different values at each stage. And that's really what we're going to explore. What are you currently viewing from? What are your current values? What are your current beliefs? And what is your potential? What is next, if you want to call it like that? And what might be potentially some sticky points from earlier stages that you might want to integrate?
And just to add to something Sarah has mentioned already, no stage is better than the other. In the same way that no stage of development as a human in regards to a teenager isn't better than an infant just because they are at that later stage. And being an adult is not better than being a teenager, just different stages of development.
Yeah. And as we move through these stages of development, and it will all become clearer as we go through the process. This is just to show you some of the models, but it's like climbing a ladder. So we all start with the first step, and the more we climb up the ladder, the more we can see, the more of a bigger picture we can hold, as well within ourselves as within the world at large. The more flexibility will become available, the more autonomy, and a decrease of stress and anxiety. There's more tolerance for differences as well, different perspectives and so on. Now, Suzanne Cook-Greuter put that model on the side. So she kind of, what we have had vertical, it's now horizontal. And this specific model shows the ego and how it develops through these different stages. You can see this arc, and you can see how the first half of the arc is really about knowledge. The second half of the arc is about wisdom. And at the top of the arc, in the middle, so to speak, that's where the sense of self and others is most strong. Most of the population right now, as you can see, is in group-centric, skill-centric, and self-determining. See that most of the world's population is there. So during this course, we'll be mostly focusing on the first half of this course.
This arc, yeah.
Of this arc, sorry, yeah.
Anything else?
Well, just a few things there to add might be useful. As we grow through these stages, it might be possible that some of the earlier perspectives might still be sort of living within the construct. So it's more important to look at what we can integrate than to reach for higher ends. And the reason for that is that we rather have you being healthy within yourself in that sense, have a healthy sense of yourself. What can be integrated? And we're going to walk through this in more detail so it'll be clearer what specifically can be integrated. And that's just more useful. So for example, what can be integrated? So at the earlier stages, it's really around basic human needs: food, sex, power. And there might be some of that still in the construct alive, in either not so resourceful way potentially. So to really healthily integrate it within yourself, so that the integration will facilitate the opening up to the next stage. And also it will allow for a healthy sense of self within yourself. And what we've seen so normally, more or less, it takes about 4 to 5 years to move from one stage to the other. And some people stay at a particular stage their whole life, and because that's what's available for them. But what we've seen in coaching is that it takes about 2 years. It accelerates the process. So for all of you on this course, it's a really beautiful opportunity. The more you become aware of that, it really accelerates the process of stage development, so to speak. Dan, have you got something to add there?
Other than just to nutshell all of that, and that we are not looking to rush to get somewhere, but rather to integrate really well wherever we are at right now. And that of its own accord opens up the next level, but we don't do it to get to another level. It's simply the whole aim here is to be healthier adult human beings interacting with ourselves and with one another in society in that sense. Yeah. And so when we speak to adult human maturity and development, we're really speaking to shifting and changing habituated ways of being, yeah, learned ways of being. Sometimes, and most of our conditioning comes from the first 8 years of our life, and there'll be more on that in the course. However, for us to be able to effectively shift and pick up habits that are more useful and drop habits that aren't so useful, understanding the science of habit development is really useful. And so the research, the most recent research, speaks to how long it takes to consolidate a habit. And so if everyone in the chat box can write down, without hitting enter, write down how many days you feel it takes to consolidate a habit. What have you heard before? What's your general sense? What are you thinking? Don't hit enter. Once everyone's put their number in, we're going to hit enter at the same time, and I'll just call that out. So we'll give that good 20 seconds or so, have a bit of a think. How long does it take to consolidate a habit? Make it autonomous, you're not thinking about it. What have you heard, and what's your general sense? This is what we're calling a waterfall chat. If you ever see this little icon here, that's what we're doing. Okay. On the count of 3, get your number in quickly if you haven't already. We're going to hit enter. 3, 2, 1, go. What have we got? Oh, you silly buggers. Some of you already know the answer, hey? 14, 35, 21, 60, 40 to 45 years, definitely for some. And hopefully we can bring that to an end. 30 days, 66, 60, 3 weeks, 3 weeks, 42 days, 18, 90, 90, kill, 21 days, 21, 42, 42. 42 is the meaning of life. Yes, absolutely. So it's 66 days, yeah, to consolidate a habit. And what does that mean, to consolidate a habit? To make it autonomous, yeah? just like brushing your teeth, tying your shoes, driving the car. 66 days. Now, it might seem that might be bad news because there was that old school of thought of 21 days to break a habit, or 28 days to break a habit, 4 weeks to break a habit. And it seems a considerate amount more, 66 days. There is good news that came with that research from the College of London. And that good news is that to this point, most of the time for most people, when they're looking to change a habit, it's a New Year's resolution, they get off to a good start, they're on a 7-day streak, a 10-day streak, and boom, they drop the habit or like that habit they were trying to drop, they pick it back up. And so, you know, they've fallen off the horse. And then the story kicks in, the narrative kicks in of, I tried once, but it just wasn't for me. And, you know, I've failed now. Well, actually, the research shows that even if you've fallen off the horse for 3 or 4 days, if you jump back on, the neural patterning that you have already laid down will still be existing, and you pick up where you left off and continue on without a dent in your process. So if you fall off the horse for a day or two, that's fine. Pick yourself back up and jump straight back in. It's absolutely fine. That's the good news there. And we're going to speak to the neuroscience behind why that's actually the case. And so this is the reason why we've created a 10-week course where we're working on habit development in a pretty big way. 10-week course, 70 days. We are here for the entire 66 days to support you, with you. We are not helping you with anything, and we will not help you with anything. Because if we help you, we deprive you of the ability or opportunity to learn how to help yourself. But we will support you fully 100% in helping yourself. And so we're in for a beautiful 10-week journey, hopefully not on and off the horse too many times, but it's okay if we do fall off that horse. And so what we've created is a Yes and Habit development calendar, which you will all have access to in Kajabi and maybe an email. Please print this off in a decent size. So A3 if you can, not the little A5 or an A4, A3 if you can. And stick this on your wall. These are very practical tips here, but super useful. And it's something that's been a really integral part of my journey with learning and developing meditation as a practice for myself. And I was even playing guitar back then. And so stick this on the wall wherever in the spot that you're going to be choosing to do your sitting or meditative practice on a day-to-day basis. Put it there. And now the whole point of this calendar is to, when you go to print this off, make sure you also buy a really, really fat permanent marker. Maybe not a permanent marker because that'll go through the wall, but get a big fat texter. I don't know what you call texter. I said this to a client that was in Africa and he's like, what's a texter? Like everyone understands what a permanent marker is? Yeah, something similar to a permanent marker. Make it nice and big and fat so that you can see the cross really, really, really well. Now, this might seem silly right now, but where this comes from, some of you may be aware of Jerry Seinfeld. Now, Jerry Seinfeld was... Sarah, what are you laughing at? She's off the screen. So Jerry Seinfeld was an incredibly successful comedian, 10 to 15 years at the top of his game. And I was listening to an interview with Jerry where they asked him, how did you manage to stay at the very top of the game as a comedian for so long? How did you do that? And he attributed his entire 10 to 15 year and billion-dollar success down to an annual calendar where he would have a wall calendar, and not just for the month. He would have one where you could see the entire year on the wall. His one task every day was to spend 1 hour writing a new joke. 1 hour. Whether he was motivated or not, whether it was a good joke or not, didn't matter. He just had to spend the time and dedicate to that. And every time he did that, he put a big fat cross through that day. Sweet. What's the point, right? What's the big deal? What this does, normally when we're looking to develop a new habit, we don't necessarily see the work done, the good work that's been done. We don't see it out there. It's kind of this intangible thing. And sure, I haven't touched cigarettes for this long, or I haven't had coffee, or whatever it might be for you, but we don't necessarily see the progress happening. So the aim of the game here is to get as long a streak as possible. You want to get it as long as possible. And every morning when you do your sitting practice for that 5 minutes, you put a big fat cross through it. Now, what happens is this flips the human psyche and how we approach this. When we get to, say, 6 days out of 7 or 29 days out of 30, what will the construct or the ego will tend to do is be like, oh, look at how hard I've worked. I'm going to have tomorrow off, right? But instead, if the aim is to get as long a streak as possible, with each cross, the value of each cross grows exponentially. It was a Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. I'd come home from a whole day's worth at the beach. I had 15 minutes of meditation to do daily and 15 minutes of practicing guitar, picking up those habits. I was on day 93 and I was in a rush, come home, needed to get to a party an hour later, and I just didn't have the time. And I was like, I'll just do it tomorrow, right? What's the big deal? I'll do it on the Sunday. I looked at that wall calendar and there were 93 crosses. Now it's just some ink on a page, but there were 93 crosses, and I wasn't just giving up one day all of a sudden. There were 93 days collectively that I was letting go of if I made the decision not to sit down and do those things. And so I sat down, not for 15 minutes, for 5 minutes, and to sit and do the meditation practice. I sat down for 5 minutes just to play. And that was okay. And I'll tell you why that piece is really important, that it doesn't have to be for the time that that you might have initially set for yourself. This here is the neuroscience of habit development, right? What you've got on the page is a neuron, okay, with the head and the body and so on. Now, whenever we make a decision and act on that decision, can everyone see me in the screen? Because I'm going to be using my hands to sweep. So you've got the neuronal head that comes together and connects. That's called a synapse in the brain. This happens only when two things happen. We make a decision to do something, so we say yes to something, and we couple that with an action. That is the only time that this actually happens. Yeah? Now, who here has found themselves saying yes to many things that they would love to be doing, but not necessarily coupling it with that action? And this is a little bit in the spirit of yes and, to say yes and do it. Now, when we do that and we create that, the key here are these dendrites, these little arms hanging off, okay? There is a finite number of dendrites on the end of every axon. The habits that we've been doing for oh so long, all of the dendrites are on that connection there, on that synapse. They're all there. Now, when we choose for the first time, and even if you're currently not meditating, if you choose to sit for 3 minutes, that's a new decision and action you're going to make. And so what happens, these dendrites, they lift off, but not all of them. Only 1 or 2 lift off and onto the new connection. It's why, if very early on in the journey, it's really easy for us to slip back to where there's more dendrites on that connection, yeah, where there's a firmer connection. So what's required is for us to repeatedly, again and again, with small actions, they don't have to be huge, make the decision and the behavior at the same time, yeah, the action. So let's just say that you're going through this course and you're halfway through and you're kind of like, yeah, I'm deciding to do 10 minutes now every single day. And you might be in a rush all of a sudden. It's the morning and kids are running around, whatever it might be. You're like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. Make the decision to do it. Sit down, even if it's just for 2 minutes, because the brain recognizes this as you having done it, and it doesn't shift those dendrites back onto the habit of not doing it. So even for 2 minutes, even 30 seconds is worth that action there, so that the next day, the decision to do it is just as easy as it would have been yesterday or the day before. So we don't actually have to fall off the horse at all. This is the alternative, to do it but for a lesser time. As long as we've made the decision and we embody it, we do the action, whatever that might be, whatever habit we're looking to do. If it's going for a walk as part of your well-being intention in this course, go for a walk for 60 seconds if you actually don't have any more time, but you've made the decision and you've gone and done it. This will make it easier for you to continue to make that decision and take that action. Yeah.
You get to apply this now to a specific intention that you've set for this course, for doing this course. It would be really good for everyone to have one intention, one habit that they would like to change or implement. And this is a process you can repeat as well for yourself. So if you notice there's just something that you, for some reason, it's hard for you to change it, apply this, and then you see it changes over time.
I'll speak more to the Yes and Health and Integral Health and Wellbeing assessment that we've created for you to give you awareness over your health and wellbeing and potentially some habits that you didn't even know that you might be useful for you to change. So that will be coming up in the next 7 days for you to go through that assessment, and you'll be able to create an intention out of that. Not look to change everything, but pick 1 or 2 things. What's the relevance of this to meditation? I've already spoken to that. Whoa, it's a lot of talking, hey, or a lot of listening. And so let's take another moment. Yeah, let's get in the habit here of taking a moment for ourselves. Just shifting gears, closing your eyes, nothing to do, observing the breath. Just relax. Gently opening your eyes again. Once again, remembering, take a moment for yourself, a few times a day, just like that. Yeah. Give your body a chance to down-regulate just a little bit. Any questions? I'd like to take a moment here to open up the floor to any questions. We actually are going to go into a collective space here anyway. So coming into the group view, are there any questions to this point?
Not at the moment, no.
Awesome. Everyone's sweet, thumbs up if everyone's sweet at this point in time. lots of information. If you've got any questions between sessions, please keep a journal with you and write those down. Bring them in, send us an email. And we might bring them into the session anonymously, but bring them into the session so that others receive the answers as well. Okay, so this is how these sessions will typically run, where we will deliver a little bit of content and a couple breakout rooms in the first half of the session. And this session has us sharing a little more than what we normally will be. And then at the back end, we're going to shift gears a little bit and move into this collective space. And we will have a discussion in here and bring in a practice around sitting practice, meditation, whatever it might be. Today, what we're doing is we're starting with the breath. 101, right? Who here knows how to breathe? Trick question, because we wouldn't be here, otherwise we'd be dead. So breathing is something that happens consciously and unconsciously. But if we can somehow, somewhere, maybe the way that society is structured and a lot of the doing and the distraction into things, we've habituated a way of breathing that isn't that great for us. And so if we can once again learn to consciously breathe well, then we will start to breathe well again, unconsciously. What do I mean by breathe well? So your bodies are incredibly intelligent. And the intelligence that runs your body, your digestive system, your lungs, if you think about all of those processes, imagine your thinking mind had to, just for an hour, it received the job of digesting your food, and you were in charge of that. Michelle, Christina, Jared, your role for lunch today is to process all of the food and all of the cellular processes. How long would we last? Probably 2 seconds. That's how complex all of that is, but it's how intelligent our bodies are. And so when you've had a big day's worth of work, just a big day doing whatever you've been doing, and you come home and you sit on the couch, what's the first thing that your body does with the breath? Let's all unmute. Regardless of whether it's the beginning of your day over in Europe or the end of your day, let's just give ourselves a big Don't tell me.
Good feeling.
Good feeling. That is good feeling. Don't tell me that that doesn't feel good. Yeah. Is that just coincidence that the body does that? So here's a little, if we can put the mute back on, here's a little bit of the science behind that. When we're busy and even a mild stress to keep the mind thinking, what happens to our breathing is it becomes heightened and it's shallower and more frequent. And we start to breathe here rather than even rhythmic and deep breaths are what no longer happen when we're doing. And so what that does, this shallow breathing, is it means most of us would know that when we breathe in, we're breathing in oxygen. When we're breathing out, expelling carbon dioxide, CO2. When we're breathing shallow, because we've been in our mind, even if our body isn't, but if our mind's in thinking mode, then our breathing will be shallow. Because it's shallow, there's a buildup of carbon dioxide, stuff that we're supposed to be expelling. And so we get home, sit on the couch, and the body's like, I don't need this stuff. And it's just like, and lets it all out. So along with it feeling good, it's expelling all of that carbon dioxide. And so the vagal nerve, if you haven't heard of the vagal nerve, is the nerve that detects stress in the body. And it reads what the body's doing. And if the body is breathing in a shallow way, unconsciously, even whilst we're there at the laptop, then it will pick this up, shallow breathing, as a stress response. And so it starts to shoot cortisol through the body. And there's this constant release of cortisol, stress hormone, through the body. Now, if we can start to bring our breath to be more at depth, rhythmic, then the vagal nerve will recognize this as control and that there's no threat. And therefore, it'll put you in a state of ease and relax. And the breath is this really, really simple thing that regardless of what is happening around you and in your environment, regardless of whether you can or can't control anything out there, this here you can, and immediately shift your state into a more generative and healthy state. And so what we're going to do, regardless of whether you've done breath work before or whether you have meditated before or whatever it might be, this is a really, really useful recalibration and a reminder just for the soma and the body to remember, because it knows how to do this already, how to breathe rhythmically and at depth, evenly, rhythmically and at depth. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some hara breathing, or some belly breathing is what we can call it as well. And if everyone can get yourself comfortable, yeah? Sitting upright or slouched, we don't really care at this point in time. If you're a little more upright, then it allows a little more air to come in. But be comfortable. That's the most important thing here. Bring one hand onto your chest, middle of your chest. A bit higher if you can, Dave. That's it, cool. And let your hand ride the wave of your chest. And then bring your other hand onto your belly. Yeah. Onto your belly button or just above. And just close your eyes for a moment. And I want you, as you're breathing, and you can take slightly deeper breaths if you want, but just breathing normally really, and observing which hand moves when. Which hand moves first? Is it hard to tell because they move at the same time? So just have 30 seconds to 60 seconds here, simply breathing and observing the hands. Okay, and keeping your eyes closed, continuing to breathe there. Start to notice, okay, that top hand is moving first or at the same time as that bottom hand. Can you gently start to shift and have the belly move first as you breathe in, and then the upper chest starts to inflate. Fuller breath in, and gently, slowly out. Lower hand rises, upper hand rises, upper hand lowers, lower hand lowers, lower hand rises, upper hand rises as you go into a fuller breath, upper hand lowers, lower hand lowers, lower hand rises, upper hand rises, upper hand lowers, lower hand lowers. Continuing on now, you can continue repeating that in your mind's voice. Lower hand rises. We're going to go for another 3 minutes. Upper hand rises. Upper hand lowers. Lower hand lowers. It's okay if it's a little tricky, a little sticky at the moment. It's okay, it'll become easier and easier. A minute or so to go, I'll let you know when to gently open your eyes. Gently taking your time though, that beautiful calm, maintaining that for yourself. Whenever you finish that practice, and even when you look to get up out of your seat or wherever you may be, to do so in a slightly more aware way with your movement and less rush, without spilling that calm. Gently opening your eyes whenever you're ready. Is anyone experiencing even the mildest of shifts in state? Hands up if you are, and if you're not, that's fine as well. Cool. Awesome. Now it doesn't take much, yeah? We're just reminding and recalibrating, having the body remember what it innately knows how to do pretty well already. And so the key is to breathe evenly, rhythmically, and at depth. Now, does that mean, okay, that's what Dan said, evenly, rhythmically, and at depth. I'm going to walk around all day long and be like, evenly, rhythmically, and at depth, evenly, rhythmically, and at depth. Fuck, I'm not getting any work done. Not necessarily. Remember, if we can use a 5-minute practice for ourselves on a day-to-day basis, once a day, 300 seconds. That's all. Yeah. Might be in the morning. If you can do it in the morning, awesome. But if you can't, anywhere in the day, but try and choose a day that's going to work for you. Yeah. When I say work for you, in this case, if you can find a quiet place, awesome. If you just can't because it's either work or the kids, that doesn't matter either. Presence is presence to whatever is happening. Presence isn't trying to create an environment of that's insanity. That's what drives us insane. Trying to create an environment that's all settled, and then we sit down and then something happens and we lose our shit. Yeah. So wherever in the day, try and give some thought to this and as to where you're going to do it, because this helps in developing this practice as a habit. If you pick the same place, same time, after a particular thing or before a particular thing that you do, like prior to brushing your teeth or after you've gone to the toilet in the morning, whatever it might be, these are all beautiful triggers and cues to help you with this habit development. Yeah. This here, the little bit every day, this practice is going to evolve week on week. So be sure to jump in there and give it a good workout for those 5 minutes every day. And then the next week, we're going to just evolve that practice a little bit. And there's no such thing as kind of being left behind in this sense, because there is always a practice to do for whatever is right for you at this point in time. Yeah. But there will be options, different options as we move along. As a general rule of thumb, if you could get to the end of this course practicing 5 minutes on most days, if not every day, I don't want to lower the bar, but most days, if not every day, that'd be amazing. If you want to set yourself a goal of, okay, by the end of this course, I'd love to be sitting or meditating or doing some form of a breath practice for 10 minutes a day or 15 minutes a day. We encourage not to aim much higher than 20 minutes a day. That's just the ego trying to, do its thing and strive its way out. So start small. If you did 70 days worth of 5 minutes, that would be amazing. If you did most days worth of 5 minutes, that would be amazing. Yeah. Even if it was a minute, like we said, at least there's a habit of who here currently is, there might be a few, but who here currently is even doing that? Stopping in the middle of the day for 60 seconds to close their eyes and do nothing intentionally. It's funny how even something as simple as that isn't common practice. There are a few in here that put their hands up, yeah? But that in itself, until I started meditating, I didn't stop. What for? What am I stopping for? Yeah. And we're talking about really nurturing and paying attention to our health and well-being overall here. And a consistency and accumulation of good health and healthy habits far beyond these 10 weeks. We're talking into the next 20 to 30 to 60 years, wherever you're at. Hopefully all of us could be there in 60 years together as well. That would be amazing. And so I'm going to now move back into the slides here. Any questions from that practice there? Please just unmute. I can't see everyone, so if you can unmute, that'd be awesome, and share. Even if I move along, feel free. Keys to your home setup. Okay, so beautiful quote here, again by Ken Wilber from Integral Theory. The beauty of practice is that it transforms us so that we outgrow our original intentions and keep going. Yeah. We often bring in a reason as to why we want to make these changes. And then when we practice, we outgrow that reason. However, our motivations for practicing evolve as we mature on this journey. Yeah. Our reasons why evolve as we do. And so in the next 7 days, like we said, one SAP practice, a self-awareness practice, and one sitting practice. So the self-awareness practice, which is around the growing up, is the YesN Integral Health and Wellbeing Assessment that we've put together. It's got 4 sections. Please try not to go through it in a rush. Allocate, it should take about 30 minutes, 24 to 30 minutes, but allocate 45 minutes so that you can take your time with that assessment. It is purely an awareness raising exercise for yourself. Oh, I didn't know that that's something I could do to improve my health and well-being. How much do I actually want to change that? It's a 2-pronged assessment where you answer to everything I do, from I don't do it at all to I do it always, somewhere along that range. And then you follow that up with how much do I actually want to, how satisfied am I with that score? And because you might not do something ever, but you might be pretty satisfied with that, or you might want to change that. You'll understand once you get to the form, because it explains all of it for you. It's for your use. It will tally up the scores just so that you can go back and potentially do the exercise again in 2 months' time, or in 6 months or 12 months' time, just to see where am I at now compared to where I was before, comparing to yourself and no one else. So taking the time to do that in the next 7 days, and that'll help you and help inform your intention moving forward throughout this course. And it's really important. You might pick 2 or 3 things that you'd like to shift in terms of your health and well-being. And then all of the work we're doing here around the thinking patterns and awareness of our thinking patterns in our personality, why we tend to do things and not do things, that's the work that's going to help support the changes and behaviors we want to do that support our health and well-being. That's how this course marries up together. The sitting practice, 5 minutes daily, your home setup, same time, same place, get comfortable, have the habit development calendar in front of you. If you haven't printed it off, don't let that be a reason why you don't do your first 5-minute practice. You can cross off in retrospectively once you go off and print that habit development calendar for yourself. No more real sort of instructions there with the home setup for that 5-minute sitting. Unless anyone has any more questions. Any questions with those practices? We're all pretty clear. Thumbs up if we're all pretty clear. Awesome. Cool. And so getting the most out of this course, resources. Every week you'll have resources. So between weeks 1 and 2, you're going to have the practices on the resources sheet, practices for week 1, and then you'll have the resources that you can dive into and explore in the lead up to week 2, related to week 2, and the same between week 3, week 4, week 4, week 5. Previous week's practices and the resources for the upcoming week. Be sure to print the habit development calendar. If you haven't already, we've had a fair few of the initial intention setting form come in. If you haven't already, that's a 3-question form that takes 5 minutes. If you can fill that out, that'd be amazing for yourself and to allow us to support you in the best way that we can. Plus the health and well-being assessment, give yourself 30 to 40 minutes for that. Maybe time block that in your calendar ahead of time so that you know when that's going to happen already. Telegram is our choice of communication. We've been wanting to move away from Facebook or Facebook supported products such as WhatsApp. And so we're on Telegram, seems to be the one that most people have outside of WhatsApp and Messenger and so on. So if everyone can jump into there, the instructions for that should be in the resources sheet. If you have any issues, please reach out to Lawrence at connect@yes-and.com.au. Pods, if you can fill the sheet in with your availability for the pods so that we can match you up with people that with similar availability. this will be your beautiful little accountability group and your accountability buddies there. And supportive one-on-one coaching, which will be happening week 3 and 7 to 9. Now, this might seem like a bit at this point in time in regards to, okay, fill out the pod, enter Telegram, fill out the intentions form, health and well-being assessment, and print out the habit development calendar. All well and good. That's what this first week and 7 days is for, to ease into it and set the foundations for ourselves moving forward. After that, it's self-awareness practice that we're going to be offering up, and your sitting practice every week, a little bit every week, and that's it. Yeah. Any questions in regards to what's coming up in the next 7 days, what to do, who to contact? Kajabi. Lawrence, are you? Oh yeah, the link's there. So Kajabi is the platform. If not everyone's across that, it's the platform we're going to be using where the recordings will be uploaded onto that, as well as all of the resources, and it'll be organized in a week-by-week basis in that sense. So you've got Telegram and Kajabi to be attending to in that sense. Any questions? Pretty good.
So this session was a little bit more also related to housekeepings and so on. Upcoming session will be slightly different, will be a bit more practice for everyone to actually start embodying this. And as we go through the content of the weeks, it's to know the content in your mind, and to get it in your heart, and to grok it in your gut. By the end of the course, you will forget everything you've learned. And that's the process of mastery as you disembody. And it's embodied because it's disembodied.
Becomes autonomous. And
Yeah.
so we're going to play a little bit of a game here. It's going to take 2 minutes, and we're going to tell a story in the spirit of yes and. So if everyone can unmute themselves, and Marion, if you can make me host, please. Actually, I'm just going to call out names. Everyone unmute themselves. I'm going to call out names randomly. And when I call out your name, we're going to create a story together. And we're going to not think too much, because this course is about being mindless rather than mindful, maybe. And so can someone give me a place? It can be
Barcelona.
Barcelona. Okay. Can someone give me an animal?
Horse.
Donkey.
Donkey, I heard. Okay. So Barcelona and donkey. And can someone give me an object?
Computer.
Computer. Okay. So we've got computer, Barcelona, and donkey. Now, someone is going to start with a single sentence that involves those three: Barcelona, donkey, and a computer. Barcelona, donkey, and a computer. Now, whatever that sentence is, it does not have to make sense. Just start a story off. Yeah. What's that first sentence? Then I'm going to call out someone's name without thinking. Just say yes and contribute to the story. Then this happened. And then the next person, yes, and then this happened. Yes, and this happened. Yes, and this happened. Make sense? We just continue on and we'll see where we end up. This is the emerging process, and trust and faith with a whole bunch of strangers that we've never met. It's kind of dangerous. We'll see what's going to come out. Let's see how we go. So anyone that would like to first volunteer for that first sentence?
Yes.
Go for it, Lee.
A donkey named Barcelona was walking with his computer.
David.
Yes, and he was perplexed by the thoughts racing around in his head.
Michelle.
Yes, and he had forgotten his charger.
Bridget.
Yes, and he wished he could just paint all day because he's just getting sick of this computer.
Mike.
Thought of a nice pair of shoes he could wear with his computer.
Jared.
And yes, and he also had a pair of spotted socks.
Ness.
Yes, and he took them all down to Barcelona Beach.
Melissa.
Oh, me? Sorry. I was waiting. Took down to Barcelona Beach where he saw all his friends. Oh, yes, and where he saw all his friends.
Tracy.
Yes, and he forgot to bring his book to read on the beach.
Chrissy.
Yes, and he did a big Eeyore and he chucked the computer into the ocean.
Yeah.
Justine.
Yes, and he found himself wondering why he didn't tie the computer to his back.
Antoinette.
Yes, and he lay down in the sun and listened to the music of the Barcelonic sounds.
Dominic. Gola.
Yes, and then another donkey approached him.
Nathaniel.
Yes, and then he thought, hello, another donkey.
Who haven't I got yet? Lou. That's it.
Yes.
Oh, Lou, go for it. Yeah.
Yes, and he invited him to sit next to him.
Daniel. Valentine.
Yes, and then he decided, let's dance.
Ava.
And that's the moment he realized he was in love with him.
Inga. Chrissy. I think that's a great finish. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
What happened? I want to know what happened.
Donkey
Maybe
love.
happily ever after.
To be continued. To be continued.
The suspense.
Let's see if we have time at the end of next one, and we'll continue it on from there.
Oh, let's keep going. That was so hilarious.
Beautiful, everyone. If you have any questions, please reach out, and thank you so much in the way that you've shown up here today. Yeah, we're really looking forward to the next session. See you soon.
See you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Bye, Antoinette.
Hoi.
Hey, mam.
Hoi. Ben ik nog te laat?